will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 more talents. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of whose servants came and settled accounts with him. And he who had received 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, so I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I did not sow, and gather where I scattered no seed, and cast the worthless servant out into the darkness, into the place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I don't think I did that right. Sorry.
No, I think you're right.
Can you edit all that?
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Sure can.
A lot of us want to give away as much money as we can, and on earth sometimes we want to hold on to it and increase it so we can give away a larger amount later. My thought is God's rate of return is much better than mine. If he increases things at 30, 40, 60, 80, 100% in his kingdom, I would be a fool not to give it to him sooner. There's 3 parts of investment. There's time, there's amount of interest, and there's the amount of the investment. The most important that we all learn in finance is time. The longer investment has to grow, the greater the potential of the amount. And I thought, well, the reverse of that is true. The sooner I get in the kingdom, the sooner it will have a chance to grow at a greater rate of return in God's kingdom than it will in my feeble 10%.
And if he's brought wealth into your life, he wants you to be generous, he wants you to take care of the people around you, the poor, your church, whoever that may be, saying that, well, when I reach a certain amount, I'll do more. Well, aren't you supposed to be that person now? We don't know that we're going to have tomorrow. And I think, as we get older, we feel that more, but it's true of younger people too. We're not promised, weeks and days and months. And so if you have a heart for something, then get in there and act on it now.
See, the parable of talents makes it really clear in Scripture where God wants us to deploy it. He wants us to put it out there. He wants it to go out to make an impact and to bring back that return and that virtuous cycle to continue. And I think we're just in one of these moments that we have to see these tools as a gift, but we also have to make sure that they don't become the things that God warns us about.
I think when we were first married, we really started out with nothing.
We got ourselves on a budget and left college, graduate school with $3,000 in our pocket and came to Dallas to work and start our family.
Even from our wedding, we tithed part of our wedding money. We supported several of our friends who went on crew staff. And so we were always involved in giving, even when we didn't have much.
I'd been an associate with several really good firms in town. I wanted to be a partner, but I was told I was too young. So at 27, I started my own firm. So for 10 years, I worked really hard in building an excellent firm, of which time I was sitting at my desk at 3 o'clock in the morning crying because, not because I'd come in early, but I'd been there all night. I said, Lord, this is just too hard. I can't handle this pressure. And he seemed to give me wisdom at that time. He said, build a firm based on service, not on design quality. He said, serve people. And so that helped me flip the firm from being a design firm to being a service-oriented firm. I got an opportunity to do some work for Walmart, and it started a 30-year relationship with Walmart where in the end we had designed 8,000 projects for them in every state.
But it was just a real joy as we had more to be able to give more. And it became more of a conversation that the two of us would have.
I approached IJ and said, I'd like to transfer this annuity to you. And they said, well, we really can't accept it. Their legal department said we can't accept it unless it's redeemed because It's actually an insurance policy. It's not truly an investment account. They said, and when you do it, you'll have to pay tax on the gain. And they said, we actually suggest that maybe you bequeath that to us in your will, because then you don't have to pay the tax on it. Well, my thought was, I can't wait till I die to send this money to IJM. So we redeemed the annuity, paid the tax. I figured that God can use that money better than I can in his kingdom at a greater rate than he had to wait till I die. Kind of like when you get on the airplane to go to heaven, you can't line your pockets with a bunch of 20s. They don't work. You have to have a currency exchange before you get on the plane. What is that currency exchange? What is the kingdom currency that we need to have to be able to have it effective in eternity?
I think really the core behind a lot of that is wanting to see a lot of people come to know Jesus. And if that's what our heart is, and that's where our mind is set, then why would we be putting our money aside for later on? Why not do it now? If our goal is to see people come to know the Lord, then let's get it out there where it can draw people to him.
It began to become, how can I invest in it to build God's kingdom? A time that I began to realize I really don't own anything, that God gave me everything. He gave me the ability to create wealth. He gave me the wisdom to use it, and it was his, not mine. And once I realized that, the light flipped on and says, I've got to take good care of this. I began to invest in relationships.
We met John and Andy through Crown Ministries when they were doing small short films. We knew nothing about the movie business. I mean, we go to the movies and we buy tickets. That's about the extent of our knowledge.
Found that they were some of the hardest working, most talented men in the media business. And so we took a risk on helping them out. And it wasn't just that we invested in a movie, we invested in them specifically.
We're in this sort of window of time where there's, the perception that Christian entertainment is cheesy or less than or not as good.
Hey, Scotty. Jesus, man.
I believe Christian movies are bad. And I don't mean they're so bad it's good, although there are a few of those.
Word of advice, don't start preaching around here.
I mean bad as in low quality, poor execution, and just wrong.
Budgets have gotten bigger, but the acting still remains forced, the story contrived, and production value low.
I see that as a businessman and an entrepreneur as a massive opportunity for a brand. There's a lot of faith history. There was a time where faith-based films were the epics and the blockbusters of the day. If you take the European art tour, there's an incredible fusion between faith and art. So we're in this ditch that we got to work our way out of. I do think it's something that we can fix and that we can improve upon and that we can reestablish our voice and culture. This is the language of the time. If we want to communicate with a generation, this is the way to do it.
Film can change the way people perceive issues.
Studies show that the movies you watch don't just affect your hobbies. They affect your career choices, your emotions, your sense of identity.
We believe that stories can really change the world.
So investing in a movie is a way of telling the opportunity to tell a very large audience a particular story. And when that story includes a faith element, it's a big opportunity to provide a testimony that's very powerful that can help draw people to Christ.
I didn't see the 15-year plan when I invested with it. I saw nothing but fog ahead. And so I stepped out in faith because they were faithful.
The second thing that I've been really encouraged by is the number of people in that generation of creators, those who are democratizing storytelling, who are unabashed and unafraid to lean into their faith and the values of their faith, even as they hold themselves to the highest standards of excellence.
I love the Irwin brothers. They were some of the first filmmakers to say, in filmmaking, faith-based films is not a genre. But if you make a really high-quality movie that is in the right genre that audiences are seeking to be entertained by, then you can embed a faith-based message.
It's my belief if you make really excellent movies that have a moral content to them, then you'll have a huge audience. And they call them crossover movies and all that, but I just say they're good movies. Everybody wants to see a good movie. They want to be entertained. We wanted initially to build projects that had redemption, forgiveness, and reconciliation in them. Every movie that they made would have those themes embedded in that.
They are duly committed to being authentically focused on the principles of their faith. They're unabashed with it, while also being dedicated to their craft. Like, I want to watch this. I don't feel like I have to watch this out of guilt because I'm a Christian. This is amazing storytelling. And I think there's something really exciting in these creators at the top of their fields, operating at the best levels of their craft, who are unabashed to tell stories of faith right now in an era that so desperately needs those stories.
This movie is really inspirational, and you're playing Hank Irwin, a real person.
So my perspective is that if I were only given 3 to 5 years to live, how would I live? And what would I do? And so I always ask the Lord, I said, well, if I get to the end of that 3 to 5 years, can I re-up my contract? So I don't expect to go anytime soon, but I live as though I could. And so it gives me a sense of urgency to do things now. And I'm so glad that MaryDel and I invested when we did years ago in certain things, because we had a sense of urgency, because of how things had grown at such an exponential rate. I couldn't do it today. If I put the money in, I wouldn't live long enough to see some of this stuff happen. So the sooner you get in the kingdom, the faster and bigger it can grow.